Hola, minasan! Welcome back for another round of Commander Analytics. Today we're going to be checking out my newly built, constructed Commander deck, Felix 5 Boots. No, I do not have the 5 of the 6 boots that are in Magic the Gathering, but this cool ooze deck is going to blow your mind and make you sneeze ooze knots out of your nose. How y'all doing today? I hope y'all are doing good because let me tell you something. This is deck number 13, and I chose a villain for deck number 13 because 13 is an unlucky number depending on who's feeling unlucky. Me, I'm feeling lucky today. But I figure number 13, the unlucky number, deserves a good villain. And what good villain than Felix 5 Boots? A blob who happens to be dressed up like a cowboy. You'll find him in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. You'll find him in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. This is his card. This is what he looks like overall. He comes in with 2 mana, black, green, blue to cast. Ooze Rogue, legendary. He has Menace, Ward 2. If a creature you control dealing combat damage to a player causes a triggered ability of a permanent control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Is it a mouthful? Yes, it is. Is it effective? It most definitely is. So, we're going to do the walkthrough right now, and then we're going to do the analytical breakdown to see what's needed, and then go into Scryfall to see what cards I can get to improve upon. Very excited for this deck. So I hope y'all are too. I've already had played this twice, and the first time around it worked. The second time around, I ended up losing because my opponent decided to steal one of my cards. That stopped me from actually running amok on everybody. There we go. Try to straighten that out. So here's Felix 5 Boots. Ooh, excuse me. I am sorry for that. Nah, I just sprayed all my snot onto you. All right. So, of course, our commander is Felix 5 Boots. Right here. Good old Felix 5 Boots. We got six basic forests. As you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 basic islands. Using the old school, with the old tap symbol, and add blue to your mana pool. Very old school. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 swamps to open up the land mass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's all good. Then next up we got command tower, land. Tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So I could tap for green, black, and blue. Reliquary tower, land. You have no maximum hand size. Tap to add colorless mana. Festering Gulch, land, desert. Festering Gulch enters the battlefield tapped. When Festering Gulch enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to target opponent. Tap for black or green. I love these deserts. I love these outlawed of Thunder Junction deserts. They're so cool. They're so cool. I love them a lot. You have no idea how cool they are. Next up is Temple of Malady. I know it's supposed to be Malady, but I call it Malady. Temple of Malady enters the battlefield tap. When Milady enters the battlefield, scry 1, tap to add black or green. Tainted Wood, tap to add colorless mana, tap to add black or green. Activate only if you control a swamp. Tainted Wood. Got Jungle Hollow, enters the battlefield, tap. When it enters the battlefield, gain 1 life, tap to add black or green. Temple of Mystery, ooh, how mysterious. Enters the battlefield, tap. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1, tap to add green or blue. Thornwood Falls, land. Enters the battlefield, tap. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, tap to add green or blue. Yavimaya Coast, old school. Tap to add colorless. Tap to add green or blue. Yavimaya Coast deals 1 damage to you. Lush Oasis, land, desert. Enters the battlefield, tap. When it enters the battlefield, deal 1 damage to target opponent. Tap to add green or blue. Sunken Hollow, land, island, swamp. Tap to add tap to add blue or black. Sunken Hollow enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Temple of Deceit. Ooh, how deceitful of you. It enters the battlefield tap. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1. Tap to add blue or black. Underground River. Tap to add colorless. Tap to add blue or black. Underground River deals 1 damage to you. There's a lot of 1 damage to you. Not really. Dismal Blackwater. Blackwater enters the battlefield tap. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add blue or black. Oran Reef, the Vastwood, land, enters the battlefield tap. Tap to add green. Tap, and you put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that entered the battlefield this turn. There's a reason for this. You'll see soon enough. Flooded Grove, land, tap to add colorless. Hybrid, green or blue. Tap, and you get to add 2 green, a green blue, or 2 blue of your choice. Twilight Mire, land, tap to add colorless. Hybrid, black or green. Tap, add black, 2 black, black or green, or 2 green. Very good cards actually. When I actually played that in a commander pod, it actually did a good job. So I definitely like to get 1 more land for green blue. Then we got Opulent Palace. Enters the battlefield tap. Tap to add green, black, or blue. Or black, green, and blue, according to its order. And now we are in the meat of the deck here. We got the Ooze. This is Oran Reef Ooze. Tap 2 and 1 green. 2 mana and 1 green. When Oran Reef Ooze enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever Oran Reef Ooze attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Very, very, very potent stuff, man. Very potent. Next up is Scavenging Ooze. Tap green, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, put a +1/+1 counter on Scavenging Ooze, and you gain 1 life. So that means that any graveyard, I can get rid of a card, and if it happens to be a creature, then Scavenging Ooze will get +1/+1 counter, and I get a life out of it, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Mana Plasm, 2 mana and green. How much is this one here? Yeah, this one is 1 mana and a green to cast. Sorry, scavenging is 1 mana and a green. Mana Plasm, 2 mana and a green to cast. Whenever you play a spell, Mana Plasm gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. That means that if I were to say play, if I were to cast Scavenging Ooze, then Mana Plasm is going to get +2/+2. So it'll become a 3/3 creature until end of turn. Now the question is, which I gotta find out, is if this is for every instance of casting spell or only once, because it doesn't say it on there. But sometimes it tends to end up being 1 time without even saying it. So it's kind of, I don't know. But if it's multiple times, that means that I can just freaking spam Commander like no other. Experiment 1, a Human Ooze. It has Evolve. Evolve. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So that means that, let's say I have Experiment 1 out, and I play Ave, which is a 2/2 creature, then this will get a +1/+1 counter because it's weaker than Ave. Remove 2 +1/+1 counters from Experiment 1, and you can regenerate Experiment 1. Regenerate, the way Regenerate works, let me pull this up, because it was complicated back in the old days, but now, let's see here, Regenerate. Let's see, they had a reminder text here. Here we go. Let me just pull this up for you so that I can show you what Regenerate does. Here we go. Regenerate says the next time this creature would be destroyed this turn, it isn't. Instead, you tap it, move all damage from it, and remove it from combat. So basically, So basically, what that means is that um, if I were to say block, right? If I block an opponent, I tap it. I remove whatever damage it was delivered to it, and then I remove it from combat, but it'll live. It's a very they don't do regenerate anymore, but it lasted a very long time. Very impressive that it lasted even as long as it did. Because it was very complicated, very confusing, especially when you had the circle of protections. I think it was the circle of protections. And green loves regeneration as well. So amazingly enough, yeah, that's on offer. It's very good. It's still a very good effect. It's just that people were very confused by it. Next up is Ave, Progenitor Ooze. 2 mana and 3 green. Legendary creature, Storm. When you cast this spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. Copies become tokens. Now, it was made very clear that Progenitor Ooze isn't legendary if it's a token. So when those tokens come out into play, they're copies of this creature, and what happens is that the legendary rule doesn't apply to the token, so you can have as many as you want on there. Ave enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other ooze creature you control. And mind you, this is an enters the battlefield rule. So not sure exactly how its timing works, but I don't think when they come out at the same time they'll register each other because from Storm. Because they're coming in at the same time, so they're still resolving before anything could kick in. Next up is the Inexorable Blob. 2 mana and a green to cast. Delirium. Whenever an Inexorable Blob attacks, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, put a 3/3 green ooze creature token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So what they mean by 4 card types, you have an instant, sorcery, land, creature, planeswalker, battle, so on. If you have any combination of those 4 distinct types, then whenever the Exorbitant Blob attacks, you get a 3/3 green ooze creature token. Next up is the Acidic Slime, 3 mana, 2 green. Death Touch. When Acidic Slime enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. Great way to get a good creature, creature strike, or maybe kill off a land that you don't like, that your opponent has. Bio-Waste Blob. 2 mana and 2 green. Oozes you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a commander, create a token that's a copy of BioWare Blob. So with Felix out in the field, I'll always be able to create a Bio-Waste Blob. And here's the thing, because it is an exact copy of Bio-Waste Blob, it has the same effects that you see here on the card. The oozes you control get +1/+1 with that token, and you can generate another Bio-Waste Blob, create another copy of Bio-Waste Blob as long as you have a commander out. So this will escalate crazily. Within 2 turns, you're gonna end up with 8 blobs. Let's see here. Within 2 turns, let me see here, 2. Then it becomes, let's see, 2. Then it becomes 6. Yeah, within 3 by turn 3, you're gonna end up with a whole bunch of Bio-Waste Blobs, and they all get +1/+1, including itself. So it's a crazy ramp. It's a crazy ramp, and it's what you control. So your opponent's blobs, ooze cards, will not benefit from it. So it's pretty powerful. The Mimeoplasm, 2 mana, green, black, green, and blue, legendary creature. As the mana plasm enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. Graveyards. That means any graveyard. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other card. So what this means is like this. If you choose, when you play Mimeoplasm, you go to any graveyard, Okay, so let's say you take out a Sarah Angel, which is a 4/4 creature, and a Shivan Dragon, it's a 5/5 creature. You can give the Mamioplasm the copy of Sarah Angel, meaning that she'll have flying and vigilance. And you could give the Mamioplasm 5+1/+1 counters from the Shivan Dragon. So you'll have yourself like a 5/5 Sarah Angel. Um, so that's how that works, basically. Experiment Kraj. 2 mana, 2 green, 2 blue to cast. Legendary creature. This is an ooze mutant. Experiment Kraj has all activated abilities of each other creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Very, very, very excellent card, quite honestly, and it's gonna make a lot of sense when you see the next card that I'm about to pull out. But this one will definitely let you get those +1/+1 counters as every single turn. You're guaranteed that. You don't have to attack the with the cross. Just make them a token. Make them a counter generator, and just escalate everything. So now we come to the support system. Spike Drone, 1 green. This is a spike. This is a spike creature. They only appeared in the Tempest block, Tempest, Stronghold, Exodus, and they were never seen again. They're not very good cards. They're interesting concept, but there was really the spikes were not strong enough. They were a little too expensive at some points, or they don't give enough to really help out. But basically, here's how it works. Spike Drone comes into play with 1+1/+1 counter on it. Then you tap 2 mana, remove the +1/+1 counter from the Spike Drone, and then you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So why is that? So why is this a big deal? Well, for example, we got Experiment Crotch, so I could keep putting +1/+1 counters on Spike Drone, and I can keep it alive, because once it runs out of +1/+1 counters, it's 0/0 and it dies immediately. That's basically how that works. So we got Spike Feeder, 1 mana and 2 green. Again, that's really not a necessary cost to go 2 green with this. They could have just kept that out 1 and a green. Spike Feeder comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Tap 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Feeder. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Feeder. Gain 2 life. Spike Worker, 2 mana and a green. Spike Worker comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Tap 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Worker. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Spike Colony, 4 mana and a green. Spike Colony comes into play with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Tap 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Colony. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. They're very straightforward, but you can see why the cost is so weird, because there's nothing complicated from them. Finally, Spike Soldier, 2 mana and 2 green, comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Tap 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Soldier, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Soldier. Spike Soldier gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So you can really ramp up and everything. Now this one is not a spike, but he has all the abilities of a spike. Forgotten Ancient, 3 mana and a green. Elemental. Whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Forgotten Ancient. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. Which is pretty good. Kazur, Ruthless Stalker, 3 mana and a green. Legendary creature, human warrior. It partners with Ukima Stalking Shadow, which I also have, but it's not in this deck. When this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put Ukima into their hand from their library, then shuffle. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Orin Frostfang, 3 mana and 2 green. Snow creature snake. Attacking creatures you control have death touch, which is nasty. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So, yeah. Card draw and death touch, and it's whenever a creature you control. Um, so I think that's multiple instances if you attack with a whole bunch of creatures. Mm. Dazzling Sphinx, 3 mana and 2 blue, creature Sphinx, flying. Whenever Dazzling Sphinx deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then, that player puts the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of their library in a random order. So this is actually a pretty, this is pretty powerful. Um, You'll understand soon enough if you haven't caught on with the way Felix works. Yeah. uh, Acquisition Octopus, 2 mana and a blue artifact creature, equipment Octopus. Whenever Acquisition Octopus or equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Reconfigure 2 mana. For 2 mana, attached to target creature you control or unattached from a creature, reconfigure only as a sorcery while attacked. This isn't a creature. While attached, this isn't a creature. Sorry, I wrote that as attacked. Next up is Ripple Pilferer, 1 mana in the blue. Creature, Merfolk Rogue. Whenever a Riptide Pilferer deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card, morph 1. You may cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature for 3 mana. Turn it face up anytime for its morph cost. It's just not bad for a 1/1 creature. Mischievous Catgeist, 1 mana in a blue, creature cat spirit. Whenever Catgeist deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Disturb 2 mana in a blue. You may cast this card from your graveyard, transformed for its disturbed cost. So here's its here's what happens when it's disturbed. It's pretty disturbing, quite honestly. That card is Cat-like Curiosity, enchantment or enchant creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. If Curiosity would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So it still retains the whenever trigger ability, which is not bad. It still retains its ability, but grants it to another creature. And that's on the disturb cost, so you could play it right out of the graveyard. Abyssal Spectre, 2 mana, 2 black, creature Spectre, flying. Whenever Abyssal Spectre deals damage to a player, combat damage to a player, that player chooses and discards a card from his or her hand. Silent Spectre, 4 mana, 2 black, Spectre, flying. Whenever Spectre deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards from his or her hand. Morph, 3 mana and 2 black. Tiny Bones, the Pickpocket, 1 black. Legendary creature, Skeleton Rogue, Death Touch. Whenever Tiny Bones deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell, which is great. So you steal a card, steal that most powerful card, and just pay whatever mana you want with no problem. Emissary of Despair, 1 mana, 2 black, spirit. Flying. When Emissary deals combat damage to a player, that player loses 1 life for each artifact he or she controls. Oh, you have that Sol Ring, huh? Oh, well, you're going to take that 1 damage. Oh, you like to rack up all those treasure tokens. Well, they're all artifacts. Take 5 damage from that. Drana, Liberator of Malakir, 1 mana, 2 black. Legendary creature, vampire ally. Flying, first strike. Whenever Drana it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. Shadow Mage Infiltrator, 1 mana, blue and a black. Wizard, Infiltrator can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. Whenever Infiltrator deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Not bad. 1/3 creature. Gonti, Canny Acquisitor, 2 mana, black, green, blue. Legendary creature, Aetherborn Rogue. Spells you cast but don't own cost 1 less to cast. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. So basically what happens is, right here where it says spells you cast but don't own cost one less to cast. Since this is a cast ability, because it says it very clearly, let's see here, what does it say? Oh yeah, see when it's, even though it says you may play, usually that means cast, and that means that the cost to cast that card would be one less. So it's a little cheaper if you steal, say, a Sol Ring. Let's say you exile the Sol Ring. The Sol Ring is free, and you could cast that for free. The Key to the Vault. What an awesome card! I got to play that in this deck. In my last commander, the last commander pod I played in, and oh my gosh, this thing is no joke. And I misunderstood it, and thankfully they corrected me. But oh my gosh, this is insane. The Key to the Vault, 1 mana and a blue. Legendary artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Equip 2 and blue and 1 blue. What that means is I swing, I hit. I look at let's see here. Let's say I hit for four damage. I look at 4 cards, and from among the 4 cards, I could put out a non-land permanent. I could put a non-land card actually, which could be an instant sorcery, whatever. As long as it's not a land card, and then I could do it for free. Very, very powerful. Cold-Eyed Selkie, 1 mana and a hybrid and 2 hybrid green-blue mana, so it could be a combination of green or blue. Merfolk Rogue, Island Walk. This creature can't be blocked as long as defending player controls an island, so it's an evasion ability. Whenever Cold-Eyed Selkie deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. Not bad. Branching Evolution, 2 mana and a green enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. So, if I get a +1/+1 counter, instead of putting 1 +1/+1 counter, I put 2 +1/+1 counters. If it's 3 +1/+1 counters, then it's 6 +1/+1 counters. Primal Vigor, 4 mana and a green enchantment. If one or more tokens will be created, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. So I got a blob token. I get 1 blob to ooze token. I can instead get 2 ooze tokens, and so on. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. So just like Branching Evolution, I can double up on the +1/+1 counters. However, this is what the key thing about Primal Vigor. It's a hug. That means that all players benefit from this, not just me. Now, that might seem crazy. Some of you might say, well, why don't you do Doubling Seasons? Well, if you have $30, you can donate to me so I could buy Doubling Seasons. I'd be more than happy to take the $30 and buy Doubling Seasons. But Primal Vigor is actually A-okay for this particular deck because the speed of which the tokens and the counters come out are faster than what my opponent's unless my opponent is all about building up counters and tokens like this deck does. You're not gonna benefit. Not many of my opponents are gonna benefit from Primal Vigor. I'll be too fast for them if they try to do a race for counters and tokens. Fight Rigging, 2 mana and a green enchantment. Hideaway 5. When this enchantment enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. Exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then, if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So it's a free drop out of exile once I meet the condition of power 7 or greater. Which might not take too long for this deck. Hardened Scales, 1 green. Enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1/+1 counters are put on it instead. So this is a replacement, but don't confuse it with Primal Vigor or Branching Evolution. If a card says you're getting 2 +1/+1 counters, you don't double that up into 4 +1/+1 counters. You're getting 2 +1/+1 counters, and one additional +1/+1 counter. So you're getting 3 instead of 4. But it's still an excellent card. It's very fast, 1 mana drop, and it can escalate just as easily as Primal Vigor and Branching Evolution. If you have any one of those 2 cards, well, anytime you're gonna be playing Primal Vigor or Branching Evolution or even Doubling Season, make sure you have Hardened Scales in there, because those cards are very expensive to cast, but Hardened Scales is a 1 drop, and you could at least get your +1/+1 thing going quickly, and not find yourself waiting until you have the mana you need to play the others. Ooze Flux, 3 mana and a green. Ooze. Enchantment, 1 mana and 1 green. Remove 1 or more +1/+1 counters from among creatures you control. Put an XX green Ooze creature token onto the battlefield where X is the number of +1/+1 counters removed this way. Pretty. I see you're all catching on, huh? I see you're all catching on. You're catching on, right? Ooze Garden. Ooze Garden. 1 mana and a green. Enchantment, 1 mana and a green. Sacrifice a non-ooze creature. Put an XX green Ooze creature token into play where X is the sacrificed creature's power. Play this ability only anytime you could play sorcery. So yeah. So I happen to have a spike, right? I got a spike. I'm kind of running low. I'm not exactly. I happen to have By a Waste out there with a +1/+1 that's giving my oozes +1/+1. So I decided, okay, let me just sack the spike, and I'll create a 1/1 ooze creature token that's going to get a +1/+1 boost from By a Waste Ooze. There you go. This one is from Murders at Karloff Manor. Case of the Trampled Garden, 2 mana and green. This was recommended to me from the commander pod to put into the deck. I just happened to have that, thankfully. I was like, ooh, I got this in my collection. I didn't know that. So I threw it into this deck. So, Case of the Trampled Garden. When this case enters the battlefield, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures you control. To solve, creatures you control have total power 8 or greater. So this is combined. It's not one specific creature. Just all your creatures have to meet the threshold of 8. 8 and higher. And it's solved. If it's unsolved, then solve at the beginning of your end step. I've always hated that phrasing, because it makes it sound like if you didn't solve this, then it automatically solves itself. As in other words, I don't need the power 8 to solve it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need the 8 power to solve it. But that's a very clunky phrasing they did. Basically, what they're saying is that in order to if this card hadn't had resolved at any course, so like say if you played on turn 1. Okay, well, it's a 2 mana green. But let's say by turn 3, you play it, but you don't have power 8. It's going to stay unsolved for every time it checks itself. So no matter what, every turn at the top here, well, it already says that when it enters the battlefield. So this is going to be completed. Most other cases, it'll still be active, the top part, and it'll just keep going. But this one only works when it enters the battlefield. So that's pretty much it. It's a one-time thing, unless I, continually take it out of the field and put it back into the field, and so on. So in order for this to resolve, I have to wait until I get power 8 or greater. So that's what this little phrasing here, this reminder text is saying, that that if it's unsolved at this point when I get the 8, then it's solved at the end step. I don't know why they phrase it like that. It's very annoying. Solved. So when it's solved, whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature against trample until end of turn. So the second you declare your attacker, it automatically gets a +1/+1 counter and trample. So that's pretty nasty. It's like a stealth trample type of effect. Roaring Earth, 1 mana and a green enchantment. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature or vehicle you control. Channel, X mana and 2 green. Discard the Roaring Earth. Put X +1/+1 counters on target land you control. It becomes a 0/0 green spirit creature with haste. It's still a land. So I have the option of either putting +1/+1. If I play it, every time I play a land, I get +1/+1 counters. But if I want an alternative, I can turn a land into a creature with +1/+1 counters on it. It still counts as a land, so I can always tap for land. Predatory Hunger, 1 green, enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Whenever any opponent successfully casts a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on a enchanted creature. This is such an awesome card. Perfect. This was the perfect card. When I came across it, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. Oh, every time, you casted a creature spell, +1/+1. Oh, you cast your creature spell, +1/+1. Very, very, very powerful because my opponents, especially if I get it on the early go, mind you, it's only 1 mana, so if I get that on like turn 1, well, not turn 1, but let's say I get turn 2, you know what I'm saying? I pull off a 1-drop creature, like Experiment 1, and then I put Predatory Hunger on it. That he's going to be getting so much, so much +1/+1 counters every single turn in the early stages of the game because my opponents are going to be busy casting creature spells. Hydra's Growth, 2 mana and a green, enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Hydra's Growth enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of +1/+1 counters on enchanted creature. Mind you, it's +1/+1 counters. That's the key word there. Fertile Ground, 1 mana and a green, enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of any color to his or her mana pool. Grafted Growth, 2 mana and a green, enchantment aura, enchant land. When Grafted Growth enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. Enchanted land has tap, add 2 mana of any one color. Don't get confused here, where Fertile Ground lets you tap and you could get the green that your basic land that your land is producing in addition to Fertile Ground. This one is alternative. Think of it as adding the effect to the land. So if you have a forest, it says tap and you get green. They add this. This adds the effect to it. So you can either tap for 1 green or you can tap for multi-green. The good thing is that I can enchant any land. So if you put it on, if I were to put it on a non-basic land, then I have multiple options because I'm adding a whole effect on there. Primal Rage, 1 mana and a green, enchantment. All creatures you control gain trample. Nasty, straightforward, simple, easy to cast. If I had Garruk's Uprising, that'd be cool. But Primal Rage is just as effective. It's just as good and cheap. Abundant Harvest, 1 green, sorcery. Choose land or non-land. I choose land. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Even though it goes to the hand, this is a great way to really get through, to just run through your deck and get your land out quickly. Especially if, say, you're off to a bad start. Like you got, let's say you got 3 lands, but you need more lands, and you haven't gotten to a land. An Abundant Harvester comes out, it'll get you right through all of that. It'll get you right through into your next land, and possibly to any other lands that might be underneath it. Kodama's Reach, everyone's favorite staple, 2 mana and a green, sorcery arcane. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, and you put one onto the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Such a fantastic card. Naturalize, the Disenchant of Green. 1 mana and a green, instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Wear Away, the Disenchantment of Green. Tap for 2 green, instant, arcane. Destroy target artifact or creature. Splice onto arcane, 3 mana and a green. As you play an arcane spell, you may reveal this card from your hand and pay its splice cost. If you do, add this card's effect to that spell. Levitation, 2 mana, 2 blue, enchantment. Creatures you control have flying. Flying blobs. Flying blobs. Here, let me pull this up for y'all. Here we go. Let me pull this up for y'all. Star Trek floating blob. Let's see here. Nope, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Where's the original series? Attack of the Parasites. Is this it? Let me just put TOS. That'll help out. TOS. Where's the floating blob? Oh no, no floating blob. I wanted to show you all the floating blobs just to give you an idea of what that looks like. Man. Floating mist, maybe? I'm sorry, guys. I had hoped that I would have shown you, was it Balance of Terror? No. Floating Parasite, I guess? Floating Parasite? Let's see. Attack of the Parasites? Yeah, let me see here. Oh, boo! 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 Sign in to confirm your age? Boo! Wayne infantile babies. Oh, man. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I wanted to show you all the blob. But if you know what I'm talking about in Star Trek, the original series, where they had that floating blob thing, it just covers their heads up. That's what it's going to look like. Reconnaissance mission, 2 mana, 2 blue, enchantment. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Cycling 2, for 2 mana, discard this card, draw a card. Next up is Bident of Thassa, 2 mana, 2 blue, legendary enchantment artifact. That's one heck of a card type there, combination. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. 1 mana blue and tap. Creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. I think that's goading. Let me see here. Isn't that goading? Let's see. No, no, that's not goading. Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Everyone's favorite counter spell. Counter spell, 2 blue, interrupt. Counter target spell. Fact or fiction. Everyone's favorite game winner. 3 mana and a blue, instant, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Put 1 pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Brainstorm, 1 blue, instant, draw 3 cards, then put any 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. I love the way Brainstorm works. It's just any card in your hand. It's not just the cards that you drew. It's any card. Great way. You know what I'm saying? It's good. Macabre Reconstruction, 3 mana and a black, sorcery. This spell costs 2 mana less to cast if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Raise Dead, 1 black, sorcery. Return target creature card in your graveyard to your hand. Classic. Disturb Burial, 1 mana and a black, sorcery. Buy back 3. You may pay an additional 3 mana when you play this spell. If you do, put it into your hand instead of your graveyard as part of this the spell's effect. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, for those of you who might not know, buyback is a Tempest, started in Tempest. Basically, what this means is that if I pay 2 mana, okay, I pay 2 mana to cast the card. I can pay 3 for the 3 mana for the buyback. So that's 5 mana total. So for 5 mana, I can return a creature to my graveyard and put Disturb Burial back to my hand. It'll cost me 5 mana to do that. Very excellent. Very excellent. And I could keep doing that over and over again so long as I have 5 mana. 5 mana during my turn. So if I have 10 mana, I could cast it twice, and I can get 2 creatures back and still have Disturb Burial in hand. Moida, 1 mana, 2 blacks, instant, destroy target creature. Vraska joins up, 1 black, 1 green. Legendary enchantment. When Vraska joins up, enters the when Vraska joins up, enters the battlefield. Put a death touch counter on each creature you control. Whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This is great for multiple reasons. One, all my creatures will get death touch when it comes into play, and number two, Felix, my legendary creatures like Felix will let me draw a card, especially Felix, because your commander is always going to be a legendary creature and is always going to dish out damage when you play them. Artifacts, Arcane Signet, 2 mana artifact. Tap it. Add 1 mana of any color to your commander's color identity. Sol Ring, everyone's favorite. You must have it in your deck no matter what. Card. 1 mana artifact. Tap to add 2 colorless mana. Strionic Resonator, 2 mana artifact. 2 mana and a tap. Copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for that copy. A triggered ability uses the words when, whenever, or at. Lithoform Engine, 4 mana. Legendary artifact. For 2 mana and a tap. To copy target activated triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. 3 mana and a tap. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. 4 mana and a tap. Copy target permanent spell you control. The copy becomes a token. Oh yes. So there we go. That is the walkthrough. That is Felix 5 Boots deck. That is what is currently in Felix 5 Boots. It is the whole entire concept is to take advantage of using Felix's whenever triggers, his little whenever bonus, and basically I wanted this to be an ooze deck, but because Felix's ability is so tight, like very narrow specific. I looked up the at triggers, and there is no at trigger that lines up with what he does. It's got to be whenever or when, and basically you have to do damage to your opponent. It's got to be combat damage. So you got to swing at him and swing at whoever your opponent is, and get that triggered effect, and that's when Felix will trigger it a second time. This is a very important distinction to understand. Felix does not copy triggered abilities. It just triggers a second time. It does a second trigger, and that goes onto the stack, of course. So pretty much because I wanted to play with a lot of ooze cards, I couldn't play with just any ooze cards. I had to be very specific with the ooze cards in order to do what I want to do. And what happened is this. Basically, I have not so much the spikes alone, but in terms of exploiting the whenever, I found creatures like Kazur. There's still one more creature I need to get my hands on, but that does this. But Kazur says this: whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So, my primary attackers, no matter what, are always going to be the ooze creatures. Although everybody's basically a primary attacker at this point. But basically, the whole point is that I want to build the ooze creatures, all the ooze creatures, with +1/+1 counters and be overwhelming on my opponent. And the only way to do that is if I attack with creatures like Kazur. When Kazur attacks, he generates a +1/+, deals combat damage. He generates a +1/+1 counter. So with Felix 5 Boots, this effect here will trigger a second time. So instead of 1 +1/+1 counter, I get 2 +1/+1 counters. I'll get 2 +1/+1 counters on it. That's basically the idea. Cards like Frostfang will let me draw cards twice. Dazzling Sphinx will let me exile cards from the top of my opponent's library twice in two separate instances. There's and that's why they say it's not a copy. It's a second trigger because of things like this. So that way it can be done twice properly. Effects like this, Dazzling Sphinx, to be able to get in there, or Key to the Vault, where I could be able to look where I resolve first the first top four, and once I put them in, then I trigger the second one. I resolve the second one, and I do it again with a new set. So that way they won't turn into these one-time effects type of situation. So that means with this guy here, with cards like Kazur, Branching Evolution comes into the mix here. So what does that mean? Well, that means that Kazur gets triggered twice thanks to Felix, and instead of getting 2 tokens, now I'm gonna get to double up the tokens. So when this triggers and I put 1+1+1 counter on it, instead I'm gonna put in 2 because Branching Evolution doubles it up. Then the next trigger happens. And then I get another 2 tokens. So instead of so now I get 4 tokens on it. Let's see, in those type of instances. So basically, it just stacks up and stacks up and stacks up and stacks up. Hence why I say Primal Vigor. Rather than spending $30 on doubling seasons, it's Primal Vigor is a good idea. It's actually good because it just the ramp up is just madness. That's 4 tokens I'm putting on there with the help of Felix 5 boots. Now, if I want to be even more nastier, let's say I got the Strionic Resonator out, and I happen to have the mana to pay for this, and I got Kazur out. So now I can. So now it will trigger twice. I activate the Strionic Resonator and copy one of the effects, one of Kazur's effects. So now I got 3 triggered effects floating with +1/+1 with 1+1/+1 counter each on the way, and they double up with the help of Primal Vigor. So that's 6 +1/+1 counters I dump onto onto my opponent. And yes indeed, Branching Evolution and Primal Vigor do stack up because they both have the same exact effect. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that instead, which means it's crazy RAM. And that's what I was trying to say, that with Primal Vigor in this instance, because all players can benefit from it, unless my opponent has a similar style deck where they get +1/+1 counters and +1/+1 token, and token creatures, what I'm saying, at a very high rate. Anybody who does +1/+1 counters is going to be too slow to keep up with me when the combinations start clicking in. So this is also why with Primal Vigor, Hardened Scales, and Hardened Scales and Branching Evolution, that I have the spikes in here. Because when the spikes, when they come into play, the +1/+1 counters do count towards Primal Vigor, as per the ruling. Where are they at? Here we go. Yeah. So as per the ruling, Branching Evolution, Primal Vigor, Hardened Scales, they do count these for the spikes. So Spike Drone comes into play with 1 +1/+1 counter on it. It will trigger Branching Evolution, Primal Vigor, and so on. So that means that a card like Spike Worker, which gives me 2, will give me 4 instead, or 3 if it's Hardened Scales. And same goes for Spike Colony. Instead of 4, I could get 8 +1/+1 counters, or 5 if it's with Hardened Scales, and so on. And so the whole entire point with the spikes is that I feed them. Saying I can transfer the +1/+1 counters to my ooze creatures, and with the help of again Primal again with the help of branching evolution, primal vigor, and so on. Instead of putting 1+1+1 counter on target creature, that'll be 2+1+1 counters. So it just escalates and escalates and escalates and escalates. And I threw in some and with the help of like Kazur, um, he could put +1+1 counters on Spike Drone. Same with Experiment Craj. If I want, I could put the +1+1 counter. Take advantage of Branching Evolution. So if I tap, right, put a +1+1 counter on target creature. Now it's with Branching Evolution. That's 2+1+1 counters that'll go on Spike, and Spike will, and then I can use Spike, to move it around and everything, and just keep ramping it up, in myriad of ways, and things like that. Um, Especially with the help of Forgotten Ancient. You know what I'm saying? But the whole thing is that there's a crazy ramp, like mad ramp going on with these +1+1 maneuvers and such. Um, you know what I'm saying? And then cards like Silent Spectre to help with the support. Being able to, instead of making my opponent discard 2 cards, they'll discard 4 cards with Felix. So basically, what I'm looking to do is have these secondary these creatures that like to trigger twice from Felix. They're the support. They're not even though they're gonna attack. Their job is not to deliver the hard hits, like the heavy hits, like the kill shots. That's what the oozes are for. The oozes, it's all about the ooze cards. Their job, like Oran Reef Ooze, is to get pumped up and pumped up and pumped up that it'll be too difficult for my opponent to hit. They'll become way too difficult for my opponent to hit, and because cards like the Oran Reef Ooze gets +1+1s, Branching Evolution, Primal Vigor, and so on will ramp those up. Manaplasm. I wasn't interested in Manaplasm, but ooze cards are very difficult to find. They're very difficult to buy out in the wild, unless I go online. So I decided to just scoop up Manaplasm for the time being, only because every time I play a spell, it gets +X+X, which is not too bad. Experiment 1 evolves and it'll get +1+1 counters and so on. So that's the whole point. And Acidic Slime is excellent because he destroys land, artifacts, enchantments, and he comes with Death Touch. Put that on there. But the Bio-Waste Blob, whoo boy, this is an army builder here, an army of oozes that will just overwhelm you, and all the oozes that I control, that includes like Oran Reef or Scavenging Ooze, or even if Exorbital Blob generates me a 3/3 green ooze creature token, we'll get +1/+1 for Bio-Waste Blob, and every single copy this thing creates at every turn. And also, it's a trigger ability because it says at the beginning of your upkeep, which means that Strionic Resonator can be used to create more copies. Now, keep in mind that Bio-Waste Blob will not trigger on Felix 5 Boots because I have to do combat damage to a creature in order for Bio-Waste Blob to have that effect. But since it doesn't do that, yeah. So there, so basically, that's the whole entire point of this deck is to use the spikes to maneuver +1/+1 counters around with the advantage of Branching Evolution and like-minded cards. Use Felix's effect with cards like Frostfang or Dazzling Sphinx, or even Drana, who when she deals damage gives +1/+1 counter for each attacking creature. Saying to help build to help create multiple copies and ramp up. Let me tell you something. My opponents were scared out of their freaking minds. This pod that I played with on Sunday, they were freaking out at the fact that Drana was just pumping up Felix every time I attacked, and that was because I had both Levitation and Primal Rage out. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole entire goal of this deck is just ramp up the oozes and make them overwhelm my opponent and completely smother them. So it's a pretty fun. So it turned out to be a pretty fun deck. I was a little skeptical because like I said, Felix Five Boots is very specific with this effect, like very laser focused, laser guided. But he's pretty good. He's pretty good. He comes with Menace and Ward 2. So, yeah, you can't get rid. He's very difficult to get rid of, and he's very difficult to block. He's got a good evasion ability there. All things considered. Here we go. All things considered. So let's get into the analytics. Let's find out what I need, how effective my deck is, and what I'm going to need to improve on this deck. So, here we go. Okay. All right. Felix Five Boots. So let's start with the land count. Let's start with that land count. Why does it feel tilted sometimes? All right. So let's remove this. Here are the lands. All right. So we got. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. So I'm operating with 36 lands at the moment. 36 lands. Okay. Creatures. How many creatures am I rolling with here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So I have 31 creatures. That's 31 creatures. That includes the commander. Including the commander, that's 31 creatures. Okay. Alright. Enchantments. The enchantment under the sea dance. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17. So I got 17. Okay. So 17 enchantments. So which one is an artifact? Also an artifact. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. One is an artifact. Okay. Next up are sorcery spells. Let's see here. Alright, let's swing over here. Alright. Sorcery spells. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sorcery spells. Alright. 5 sorcery spells. Instants, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sorceries. 6 sorceries. Okay. Artifacts. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 artifacts. One is an enchantment. Doubles up as an enchantment. So let me just note that. Here we go. 1 enchantment. Okay. There we go. 1 enchantment. And miscellaneous, I don't have any other card type. I don't have a planeswalker or no No planeswalkers, no battles, no nothing else. Nothing unusual. Alright. Okay, so that's a 0. Okay, time for mana abilities. These are cards that have tap in them. These are cards that got tap in them. So let's sort this out first. Okay, and it's got to be a natural, not grant. It can't. It can't. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a natural speed. It can't just grant something. Like for example, fertile ground. But grafted growth is not. It's not. It grants a mana ability, but it's not a natural mana ability. Fertile ground is a natural mana ability. Players can't respond to fertile ground very easily. No. No. Correction. It is a mana ability. Yeah. And, grafted growth is a mana ability because it's tap. Yeah. It grants the tap ability. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let's get these here. And of course, all the lands. Like it's got to be very direct. It can't just be like a roundabout way. I'm saying, like, in other words, if your opponent can't respond to it, there we go. If your opponent can't respond when you tap for mana, then it's a mana ability. And grafted growth is definitely it gives you a mana ability. Let's see here. All right. I like the old tap symbols when it was when it's card like with the little hook on it. I like those better. Okay. All right. Here we are. So let's see here. Looks like all 36 lands have tap. Have the mana ability. Yeah. Because you got cards like Terramorphic Expanse, which is not a mana ability; it's a fetch land. It doesn't tap to hunt down. So, in terms of mana ability lands, we got 36. Perfect. Okay. There we go. So, let's come up to here. 36. All right. No creatures. No enchantments. Yeah, there is actually 2 enchantments and 2 artifacts. 2 artifacts that 2 artifacts, which is the Sol Ring and Arcane Signet, Grafted Growth, and Fertile Ground. So far so good. All right. Mana curve. It's time for the mana curve. All right. So all the lands are going to get put to the side because they don't count. We all know that they're free. All right. So let's lay this out. We got 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Let's push that to the side. All right. That's 3, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That goes up here. 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2, 3. I got a lot of 2 3s here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh wow. This has got to be my most focused. This has got to be, this is probably my best curve yet. Oh wow. This is probably gonna be the best curve I've ever built out of this deck. Oh, this is gonna be very interesting. Let's see here. Wow, I think I struck a good balance with the way the mana curve is happening. There we go. All right, let's do the count. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dang it, why'd you have to fall over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9. This is my largest output of 1 mana cards to date. 9 1 mana cards. Wrong one right here. Wow. That's pretty amazing. All right. Red. There we go. All right, 2 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 2 mana cards. Okay. Time for green. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Another 16. Interesting. Green and 3 mana and 2 mana are evened out. So what does that leave us with 4 mana? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This one goes up to 12. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. I have 9 5 mana cards. Wow. And 6 mana cards, I have 1 and 2. 2. Alright. 2. And Felix 5 Boots is over here on the... over here. So this is quite possibly my best mana curve to date. this is actually an excellent mana curve here that I've built, that I got built here. Oh man, I mean, just look at that. It's very compact, very tight. It's not overwhelming. 30, well, 32 cards. 32 cards are 2 and 3 mana. That's actually really good. Having 32 cards that are 2 and 3 mana. And the 5 mana and the 6 mana cards is not overwhelming and overpowering the mana curve. That is amazing. Oh man, I did a good job here, and there's still more cards for me to get to improve on it. All right, let's do the power meter, everybody. Let's do the power meter. Gonna have to do a sort here, so let's switch scenes. There we go. Okay, so you can be able to see me. All right. So, 4 2 2 0 0 2 4 5. Here's 5 0 3 0 0 2. Here's 1. Okay. 2 1 3. Here's 0 0 2 2 2 1. This is looking even more interesting because I don't have like high hitting monsters like I normally would have. Very hard hitting monsters that go north of 5 on most of my decks here, and this one here again very tight knit on the power scale here. Very tight knit on the power scale here. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's how this looks. 0 power. We have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. We have 8. So officially, this deck has the most 0 power creatures compared to my other decks. There we go. Okay, 1 power. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. This one is at 7. Okay. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. This one is 9. I got 9 cards with 2 power. And I have 2 cards with 3 power. I have 3 cards with 4 power. And finally I have 2 cards with 5 power. So in terms of natural power, this deck is extremely weak. So it does show weakness. It does show a lot of weakness in terms of power. But the whole entire point is the +1/+1 counters. Just ramp that up to crazy levels. To very insane crazy levels. So let's set up for the toughness level, the toughness meter. Okay, so let's see here. We got 4 toughness, 5 toughness. Okay. We have 6 toughness, 4, 5, 3, 3, 2, 2, 6, 3. Is a 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 3, 0, 0, 0. All right. So again, this is very tight knit. There's no gaps between numbers, much like the just like the mana curve. Here we go. All right. So let's get a look at that toughness here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 0 toughness creatures. Okay, they got natural toughness 0. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 1 toughness creatures. Okay. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 2 toughness creatures. 5 2 toughness creatures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 3 toughness creatures. Mm. 1, 2, 2 for toughness creatures. And finally, we got 1, 2. Oh, we got 2 5 toughness creatures. Oops. Here we go. And 2 6 toughness creatures. Interesting. I got an interesting setup here. Here we go. So far, the toughness meter is very compact, very tight knit and compact there. This definitely shows that that this is very well constructed deck with very focused on the abilities and everything. The toughness and power meter. The power meter is very fluctuated. It's definitely not intended to have to come in heavy attack on a natural power level, on a power scale. You know what I'm saying, on a natural power setup. But it definitely does have a fair good of natural defense, 3 and up, from 3 to 6. So there's plenty of blockables. So this is really showing that this deck is designed for Felix's effect. You know what I'm saying? To really exploit that. All right. Let's look for cards that draw. Okay, it's time for tactical. It's time to deal with tactical. So draw cards. Cards that let me draw. That's a draw a card. None here. Okay. Let's see. What about you guys? That's reveal. Brainstorm. And it's got to say specifically draw X cards. It can't just be look at or reveal. Nope. No. Okay. Cycling. Okay. I don't have any other cycling in here. No, right? No, I really don't. Not even in here on among the lands. I guess I didn't have cycling among the lands. No, I guess not. Alright, and what about among the creatures here? Yep. Yep, that one draws a card. Yep. Nope, not that one. Yep, this one. All right, here we go. How many do we have here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 cards that does draw. Okay. 8 cards that draw. Next up is search. So they gotta say search. We gotta use the keyword search. Okay, I can actually put this back. Okay, let's see what we can find here. Not that one. That's different, but I'll put that to the side. That's also different. Nope, nope. This one. That's different. No. That's a search. I can put that over there. Put that over there. Let's see. I can also put you there. Oh, I forgot about Fresca joins up. That makes the count 9. There we go. So I have 9 draw cards, which is actually still good, all things considered. Okay. Interesting. I don't think I have much in the way of some search. It might not be a good that might not be good for the deck. Yeah. Yeah, there's no other search engines in here. That's That's pretty crazy. Alright. So I only have one card. That's Kodama's Reach. That's the only one. Alright. Recover cards. These are cards that come back from places like Exile or the Graveyard. Okay. We got Disturbed Burial, Raised Dead, Macabre Construction. Who else can send back from the graveyard? That might be it. Yeah. Yeah, because most of the cards tell me just to go up one. You know what I'm saying? To just look at the top card. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so I only have, hold on, let me just see here. I didn't take a look at this, did I? No. Alright, and over here. Okay, so I only have one, two, three recovery cards. Okay, next up is top deck. These are cards that allows me to look at the top of the deck, of my deck, not just any deck. Yeah, I could sit these under here. Let's see here. So Snap Predatory Hunger, Hardened Scales, no, and no. Abundant Harvest, yep, the key to the vault. Look at that many cards from the top of your library. Hideaway, look at the top 5 cards of your library. Fact Eviction, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Ooze Garden, nope. War in Earth, nope. No, to Primal Rage. Not these. Oh, excuse me. Let me just double check here. Make sure, because sometimes they might have multiple effects. Yeah, no? Okay. Oh, I could recover Mischievous Catgeist with Disturb. So that actually counts as recover. Make note of that. Alright. What else is amongst the top deck? Can let me top deck. Not this one or this one. This one? No. Nope. Manaplasm, nope. No, not Scavenging Ooze either. We're looking for top deck. Yeah, there's a lot of destruction coming up. There seems to be a lot of removal that's going to be coming up soon. Let's see. That player exiles. Nope. Nope. Not that one. Oh, that's it? Huh. Alright. So, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 cards that let me top deck. Okay. So it's not really that bad in terms of getting cards from the deck in terms of resources. Recovery is okay, but drawing is very, very strong, especially when Felix kicks in, because that's the key factor, is that Felix will kick in and give me that multiplier. Let's see here. Alright, so now we're gonna do removals. Anything that goes into to that specific direction, which is graveyard, exile, hand, or deck. Let's see here. Nope. And tiny bones don't count because tiny bones is not destroying anything. Let's see here. Okay. Ooh, excuse me. I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm tired, that's all. That's what's going on. Okay. Let's see here. Destroys. Okay. That goes to the graveyard. Wow. How much destruction do I have here? Feels like I got a good chunk of destruction going on. Discard, destroy. Let's see here. Nope. Copy, create. Give creatures flying. Copy. Nope. That creates creature. Create creature. Here we go. Destroy. Counter. All right. What about you? Over here. No, you create, you grant, discard, this one goes to the deck in the end. How about you? Alright, that's exile. That's an exile. Alright. So that's all there is to this group, huh? Alright, let me double check over here. These guys, just to be on the safe side. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see, recover, search. That just grants death touch. Just want to make sure. So that way, alright, cool. Alright. So, in terms of destroying, sending cards to the graveyard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 of these. Okay. That go to the graveyard. Okay. These 8 go to the graveyard. These 3 send cards to exile. My opponent's cards to exile. They do allow me to play the cards from exile, but the fact that I could just leave them in exile is a very big deal. Send the cards to exile. And then the Sphinx. The Sphinx is a little unique because it does let me exile cards, but I get to cast a card without paying a mana cost and then that player puts the exile cards that weren't cast at the bottom of the library. So I would probably put that under deck. I'll put that under deck because that's its final destination. I have no cards that bounce, oddly enough. That's interesting. There's no effects where that sends cards back to the hand whenever damage is dealt. I'll have to look that up just so that way I can have that one extra alternative there. All right, so let's do. Let's see what we got going here. So, surprisingly enough, there's a gap in tactical with to hand. I don't have any cards that send cards back to the hand. I'll have to look and see if there is one that does that. My resources, I got plenty of card drawers. Many of them have the when ability, the triggered ability, so Felix can let me draw multiple cards. Hence why Query Tower is in there. I got recovery as well as top decking that can help me out. And I only have Kodama's reach. I think my reasoning for not having too many search cards is because of the draw. With the help of Felix Five Boots, I'll be drawing up so many cards. There's no need for me to have to worry about searching because I know I'll get that. And same with the top deck effect, where I could be able to top deck, look at one card, and then put it away. My toughness meter is fine. It's not in terms of natural toughness, but it's compensated with the +1/+1 counter. Same with the power meter. If it, because the whole deck revolves around the +1/+1 counters, all of this is kind of moot in a sense. I mean, some good blockers and a couple of good hitters, not bad, especially with Felix the Commander. But the +1/+1 counters is where it really counts, and all of these numbers here will fluctuate and ramp up as time goes on. The mana curve is quite possibly the tightest mana curve I've ever built in this deck. It is very top notch. There's no heavy costing cards out here. It's just only 6 mana, which is 2 cards, and 5 mana, which is just 9 cards. But by the time, by the time these cards come into my hand, given the number of cards, here that cost me 1 through 4. I'll have enough mana to pay for the 5 casting creatures, 5 casting cards, the 5 mana cards. But at least I have plenty of speed to drop like 9 1-drops and 16 2-drops. This is a pretty fast deck. This is a deck that'll let me drop cards very quickly. 3 mana also, if we want to really add that to the speed. This is very good. This is very good. That means that I have, let's see, this is 32. I have over 40 cards. Over 40 cards that require 3 mana, up to 3 mana, 1, 2, and 3 mana. That's actually very good. That means that I won't be without resources or anything. I could just drop, just cast. And with 36 lands, that'll help out. Plenty enough creatures, 31. I might cheat a little and add in a couple of more. 17 enchantments necessary because it's all about getting those those +1/+1 tokens and other assists that Felix benefits from. 5 sorcery, 6 instants, 6 artifacts. One of them is enchantment, which is the Bident of Dasa. It's a very compact deck. It's very compact. This was a good start. I've only played this twice so far over the weekend. I just built it over the weekend on Saturday actually. So this deck is no more than 1, 2, 3. It's only 4 days old. The deck is 4 days old, and so far the deck has moved into the correct direction with what it tends to do with its aimed goal. It's very solid. This is very solid, and I can only go up with this deck moving forward, which we're going to try and do. Which is what we're going to look for now. Let's hit the view screen and head on over to Scryfall. Let's see here. There we go. Here we are at Scryfall. Okay. So what am I looking for? Obviously, I need Commander Sphere. I don't have Commander Sphere. I need Commander Sphere. very much. I need Commander Sphere because it's a solid card, and it's very and for a tricolor deck, it will most definitely help out. All right. Let's see. There's now this is actually very tricky. Here we go. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player. So what I want to do is I still want to get this one creature here. This one creature, the Necropolis Regent. And the reason why is because I have Drana and I have Kuraz. Who else do I have here? Aside from, let's see, Kazur. Sorry, I have Kazur, Ruthless Stalker. I have Drana, and I want to have at least one more creature where, whenever I deal combat damage, I get +1/+1 counters on it, and that's where Necropolis Agent comes in. It's 3 mana, 3 black. Let's zoom in on that. 3 mana, 3 black. Flying. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. I'm wondering if it's if I do have it. I'm wondering if it's in my Amalia deck. I'll have to take a look at it. If it is, I'll just yank it out and throw it into here. But but remember, this is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage. I get to put that many +1/+1 counters on it, so I don't even have to swing with this creature. I could just swing with my Ooze cards and let them get the +1/+1 counters for the damage they do. This is the type of effects that I'm really looking for, but they're very, very, very few, far and wide. The rest are like for example, not Kazor, Drana. Drana has to attack if I want to get her benefit, and I have to have my other creatures attack. As well. See, whenever Drana deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. So I gotta swing with everybody, including her, in order to get her effect, maximize her effect. But I still want her in the deck. Whereas the Necropolis Agent is just any creature I control. Whenever a creature controls, so I can swing with my Ooze cards and I get +1/+1 counters on it. And with Primal Vigor or Hardened Scales, those counters just ramp right on up, very, very hard. I want to get Larceny as well. I was hoping I could find Larceny. With Larceny, I can draw. I can make my opponent discard cards every time I do damage, just to add that extra support. Take advantage of Felix pulling that one off. Let's see here. Well, blue. Was there somebody in blue that I wanted that could do? No, right? There wasn't really anybody who had that. Whenever a creature... Oh, this says when a creature. Sorry, let me reword that. Whenever. Here we are. Whenever. There we go. That's a little better. I tried to do the ninjas, but because I needed +1/+1 counters, they weren't going to be that effective because I can't afford to scoop. I can't afford to scoop creatures with +1/+1 counters just to do a Mistblade Shinobi or something like that. Let's see. Was it Mistway Spy? Mistway Spy? No, it wasn't that one. The Curiosity Crafters is fine. Actually, Curiosity Crafter is definitely one that I would like to have because I want to keep doing the card drawings, and also has you have no maximum hand size. I wouldn't mind playing that one because card drawing and hitting creatures, hitting my opponents with combat damage is actually pretty good. I have Sharding Sphinx. I don't know if I want to play this because it's not a Thopter deck. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that I can the fact that I can trigger this twice and get 2 creatures out of it is not bad. But I want to stay focused on the Ooze cards. Letting the Oozes be my heavy hitters, which is what they're supposed to be. I want to get my hands on Briar Hydra. Briar Hydra. Whenever a Hydra deals combat damage to a player, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of basic lands among lands you control. So, I hit with Briar Hydra. I have 5 lands. With Felix, that makes it 10 that triggers twice, so that's 10 +1/+1 counters. And if I have again branching evolution out or primal vigor out, that's gonna be 20 +1 20 +1/+1 counters. So I would like to have this, if anything, for that. Let's see. Who else? Yeah, that's the only one among the green I want to get. As much as I want Kodama of the West Tree, I want that for my Kenrith deck because it's all about the modified creatures, and it gives my modified creatures trample, in my Kenrith deck. Did I want it to take Leech? No, no, that's pretty much it. On the Ooze side, the Ooze. Gotta love that. Ooze, ooze, ooze. If you've seen Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, you'll get what I'm saying. Oh, actually, there was one. Okay. Hold on. I forgot the color combinations because there were some creatures that have actually a solid color combination. Blue black. Was it here? No, blue black. I already have the blue black combination. I think it was black green. Yeah. I would like to get Ikra Shiriki. Whenever a creature you control deals common damage to a player, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. That's a pretty nasty thing. Just get all that life back. Lathril seems interesting, but I don't know if I want to really create. But again, this goes back to Sharding Sphinx if I want to like create lots of counter creatures. But this one is actually pretty good. Whenever Blade of the Elves deal combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green elf warrior creatures. But it's very focused on elves, so I don't know if that's really worth the trouble. I already have Frasca joins up, but Ikra is one that I want to get my hands on, and the other one is this guy here, which is blue green, bred for the bred for the hunt. Yes, whenever a creature you control the +1/+1 counter on it deals combat damage to the player, you may draw a card. So that can activate twice because I'll always have +1/+1s. It's Marcus Mutant Mayhem, Mutant Mayor. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. If that creature has a +1/+1 counter on it, which is awesome because I can draw 2 with it. But if it doesn't, then I get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. So if I can't draw the card, then I get to give that creature 2 +1/+1 counters, which is pretty good because one way or the other, I'm going to score. I'm going to either score cards or I'm going to score counters. I like it. It's 3 mana, green and blue, perfect. So that's the other card that I want to get my hands on. Now for the oozes, there's actually I'm running 10 right now, but I want to go just a little bit over on the oozes, and 2 of them are coming very, very soon. They're coming very, very soon because they're in the modern Horizons 3 that's coming out next week, I think. I believe it's next week or at least 2 weeks. In at most 2 weeks. One is Expanding Ooze. 1 mana, green, black, black and green. Adapt 1. Now, people say Adapt 1 is a terrible effect. I agree. But for this particular deck, it's actually very effective because of the fact that I can move tokens around with the help of cards like Ooze. Was it Ooze Form? Yeah, Ooze Form. Ooze Form. Ooze Form. Where are you at? Because Ooze Form says, I don't want to confuse. I don't want to get the garden and the Ooze Form confused. Ooze Form lets me move +1/+1 tokens from creatures. Where are you at? Ooze Garden. No. Yeah. Oh, Ooze Flux. Sorry. It's Ooze Flux. Let me show you. Let me show you. There we go. Ooze Flux. So remember, Ooze Flux says remove one or more +1/+1 counters from among creatures you control, and I get to create an XX green Ooze creature token equal to the number of +1/+1 counters removed that way. So what does that mean? Very simple. Adapt one. The only way if adapt one only works once apparently. So whenever expanding ooze attacks, put adapt. If this creature has no +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So I put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's it. I can't put any more +1/+1 counters with the adaptability. But if I use ooze flux and move that +1/+1 counter over and create a 1/1 ooze creature token, I can adapt one again, and I can repeat the process so long as I have the money to pay for both effects, just like that. And I could create, and I can have myself a little factory, ooze factory going between expanding ooze and ooze flux. But it's not the only ooze creature that does that. Now, what's also good about it is that expanding ooze attacks put a +1/+1 counter on target modified creature you control. And since counters, like +1/+1 counters, or other types of counters that you put on a creature, they'll get the benefit of getting a +1/+1 counter. In this case, since I'm doing +1/+1 counters, I can keep adding and adding and adding +1/+1 counters, and with the help of hardened scales and primal vigor, the more +1/+1 counters will get put onto it. So in this instance here, there's another ooze monster. There's another ooze creature here that's going to be in Modern Horizons 3, and that's the temperamental ooze wag. It has adapt 2. So I can do adapt 2, get two +1/+1 counters on it, and again, ooze flux. I remove it from the ooze wag, and I'll create a 2/2 ooze creature token. And modified creatures you control have trample, which means that all my +1/+1 counter oozes will have trample. In addition to any other creature that I have that I give +1/+1 counters on top of. But here's another fun thing. Again, primal vigor or branching evolution doubles up that adapt. So now I get 4 +1/+1 counters, and I can create 4/4 ooze creature tokens with the help of ooze flux. So create 4/4 ooze creature factories out of these guys. So these are the two cards that I got laser focus on, because they are going to be in Modern Horizons 3, which is coming out sometime either next week or within the next 2 weeks when it comes out. So I just got to get that, and I'll have both of those ooze cards, because these ooze cards are very difficult to really find and get unless I go online. I really don't want to spend $20 on shipping for one card for what amounts to a $1 card, a 50-cent card for that matter. There's one more card I want to get my hand on. One more ooze, if anything. So I'm running 10 oozes. Those will make it 12. This will make it 13. And plus, I don't. Yeah. But this is the one. Biogenic ooze. When Biogenic Ooze enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each ooze you control. And for 1 mana and 3 green, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token. So it's another ooze factory here. It's only 3 mana and 2 green. It's a 2/2 creature. But the fact that at the beginning of my end step, I could put a +1/+1 counter across my ooze creatures. All the ooze creatures I control is crazy, and this is the one that I want to get my hands on. If I can find it. I think that's I think that's it. Wasn't there one more? I think there was one more. I got the Manaplasm. Oh, the Predator Ooze. Is that the one I want? No, it's not that one. I don't know if I want Slurk. All ingesting. Let's see. I think it is Slurk. All ingesting enters with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. When Slurk or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control that has a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's another one of those crazy things. And again, I have the Strionic Resonator and the Lithoform engine, so I could just copy that and just do all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of shenanigans with this. Let's see here. I don't know why it's talking about 2 commanders here. Oh, it's because of the partner effect. I'm not sure if I want to add Slurk to it, but I wouldn't mind. But is that really the one that I wanted to do? Was it Ochre Jelly? Ochre Jelly enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies, if 2 or more will create a token that's a copy of it at the beginning of the next end step. The token enters. But no, I don't think that was it. But oh no. The Consumptive Goo. This was the one that I wanted. For 2 mana and 2 black, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on Consumptive Goo. Yeah, that's the I think that was the 14th one that I wanted to get my hands on, because I could be able to do because it's a great way to get around indestructible creatures and reduce them to -1/-1 if possible, and be able to get a +1/+1 counter on it. I think that was the one that I was looking for. So there we go. Yeah, that's all of it. Because there's not, like I said, there ain't much cards that that have those whenever triggers that require combat damage. So that's Felix 5 Boots. That's my Felix 5 Boots deck. It's pretty good build. 4 days into its existence, and I really love it a lot. I like it. Sorry, I need to slide in a little closer. There we go. It's a pretty tight knit deck. I like it. There's 2 good ooze cards coming. The adaptability in this instance is actually very effective in this deck compared to putting in other types of decks. And just want to get 4 more oozes, and that should do it. But I think the 2 that I'm gonna get my hands on with Modern Horizons might be more than enough in running 12 oozes. But 14 could be squeaking it. But we'll see what happens. Other than Commander Sphere, yeah, those are the only 2 that I'm looking to get my hands on, and some of the other creatures that I had mentioned. So yeah, there's still a lot more to fine tune. Basically, that's where I'm at. It's all fine tunement with Felix 5 Boots, but it's pretty powerful. Being able to duplicate triggered abilities upon damage and getting to force your opponent to discard multiple times or draw multiple times, and most importantly, getting +1/+1 counters multiple times. That's pretty powerful. That's a very, 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 very powerful effect that Felix 5 Boots has, and built right, yeah, he'll be unstoppable. So there we go. Thank you all for joining me. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, follow. You know you want to. And head on over to Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and grab yourself a copy of The Impossible Man, a strange fantasy novel written by me. You'll find the link down in the description below, along with links to other merch like pins, stickers, t-shirts, and music. And if you're interested, you can join me on Twitch and Kick for live multi-stream every Monday through Thursday, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, until the next analytics, thank you all for joining me, and I wish you all a good night, a buenas noches, and oyasu minasai.